All right, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashem, Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. And I'd like to say salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm going to entitle this lesson, Let's Go Brandon. So this lesson is inspired by President Joe Biden addressed the nation yesterday, spoke on some of the issues that's going on, predominantly concerning that thing, all right, and making people download that thing on their Windows 19 computer, and how that's going and stuff like that. He also spoke about the inflation situation. He also spoke about Build Back Better. That one of the senators that did not vote on it. So these are some of the things he spoke about. Now, why am I titling this show "Let's Go Brandon"? The origin of Let's Go Brandon stems from a NASCAR event that was held where the crowd was chanting F Joe Biden. F-U-C-K Joe Biden. They were saying that, they were chanting it, and the NASCAR announcer thought the crowd was chanting Let's Go Biden. Let's Go Brandon. But really they was trying F Joe Biden, you know? So what people do now, and it's a smart way to not really get mixed up in any trouble with the algorithms and whatever. They just say, let's go Brandon. So if you look at some of these comments here on this video, um, I would not believe anything this man has to say. Let's go Brandon, all caps, with the censorship over the mouth emoji. I'm not so concerned about Brandon being in the White House than the Chinese V word or the South African V word or what else it's called now. This man wouldn't know the truth if he walked up and sniffed its hair. I can hardly stomach the lies out of this degraded man. Shameful. Let's go, Brandon. I can hardly stomach the lies out of this degraded man's mouth. What the hell is a glitch? Look at these comments. Hiding dislikes, classy. Which that's really why they introduced a dislike button. There was a lot of dislikes concerning the situation, how this country was run, and left-wing media, a lot like you go to CNN, MSNBC, they were getting disliked. They're pretty much getting ratioed in a negative light. So they what YouTube is, since YouTube is partied with the left-handed agenda, or the left-wing media, what they did was they removed the dislike button, right? Now I'll say this too, even though you have a left wing and a right wing, it's two wings of the same bird, all right? They're both Edomites, they're both devils. Now, even though they war with each other, as it would be prophesied, Egyptian against Egyptian, you do have a lesser evil situation going on to where more people right now just want to ally with the Republican side, because the Republican side and conservatism are more, or libertarians are more partying on that side, where people are going with that side because they want their liberties, so called, right? They want the ability to go out and party with no mask on or whatever, right? And they don't like the restrictions that's being passed down really right now by the left, right? So that's sort of what's happening. So there's a lot of emojis or pictures. You like see how you have like a Batman symbol. They'll have a take that symbol out and put a Trump in there. Why? Because when Trump was pretty much ruling, things were more awesome. You know, you're getting paid more money, gas was cheap, stock market was up, it was lit, right? This guy was always in the news, starting shit with the other nations. He was very off script. Like, so when you watch this Joe Biden address, you can see that everything he does is scripted. Well, Trump was sort of off script, and he pissed a lot of people off and all that controversy. And he was a nationalist at heart, so you know when he was in there, he was the man. He was cool as hell, right? Um, so what this guy comes in, it has that more robotic Obama feel, giving the people hell, making your life a lot harder. So what's pretty much happening is the people are mourning, right? Now, here's what the scriptures say, okay? This is Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, right? So when a righteous ruler is ruling over the people in the state of rejoicing. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's what's happening here in America. There's a lot of mourning going on. Why? Because the wicked is in power. All right. The decrees that are being passed are unjust. And a lot of their, let me actually jump to it. I had a laugh. Let me get to it now. Isaiah 10:1 says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. And what the so-called white man is known for, he's known for issuing these bills that have a whole bunch of nonsense in them. You know what I'm saying? Bills that will first of all, these things are 1,000 to 2,000, sometimes even 5,000 pages, and you're supposed to read it overnight and sign on it. That's another thing. This dude Trump wasn't rocking with that. Like these bills and shit, he was always like turning them down. The bills that would like Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats would come up with. Um, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and write grievousness which they have prescribed." So the so-called white man, he always prescribes these wicked and unrighteous decrees and treaties. He comes in the guise that look, the soft words. You know, part of that is this contracts. All right, the so-called white man will have contracts, but within the contracts, he'll have something called fine print, and it's like pretty much big words telling you something. But in the fine print, there's a lot of clauses, just a lot of BS, man, a lot of trickery. And when people sign their contract, I'll give you a prime example. These rappers, they'll sign a lot of 360 deals, and end up getting fucked in the end. So that's the ways so-called white man operates. Because when you go in like the entertainment industry, it's run by the so-called Jews, which are Amalek, so-called white man again, Edomites, and they'll trap people up in their contracts, man. So the so-called white man at this level, running the country, all right, he's issuing out bills, all that to make lives more grievous for people here in America, to the point where his own nation is rebelling against him, all right. Because if you go on the comment boards, all right, it's a lot of Edomites going hard against this dude. There's Jake's, that's pissed off for him too, but Jake, they got easily deceived, right? They stirred up their emotions with riots and all this type of BS. Got them, they had them calling Trump racist. Meanwhile, they voted for racist anyways, right? So it's BS. There's a lot of it's easy to manipulate Jake in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? Because they're very high emotional. But the elect weren't deceived. We understand that it's two coins of the same. It's two coins of the two sides of the same coin. It's a good cop, bad cop scenario. With these politicians, these Edomites. It's Proverbs 11:10. When it go well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth, right? And when the wicked perish, there's a shouting, right? And that shouting is a shouting of joy. It says, when it goeth well with the righteous, the city is rejoicing. So if righteous people were being rewarded and righteousness was going out throughout the city, all right, this place will be in a state of rejoicing, but people aren't rejoicing right now. And it says, when the wicked perish, there's a shouting. So if this guy was to croak, there will be a shouting of joy. See, in the Hebrew here, the word there is ranah, and it means, see, a ringing cry of entreaty, supplication, and proclamation, joy, and praise, right? So that's the way it's meant to be. When the wicked perish, everybody's rejoicing now, right? So this guy, he kept coughing throughout the speech, he kept coughing. Hey, this brother Prashad, he brought it out in the chat. Like, I know y'all noticed that cough. Like, yeah, he just kept coughing. So, hey, man, if it was to come out that this guy got that thing, it would be like, wait a minute. So we doing all these precautions and people are still getting that thing. And I'll say this much about that thing. If you download that thing on your computer, right, and you could still get the V, then even if everybody downloaded the thing on the computer, the problem will not go away. Because this thing is not meant to go away. Hell, in that new South Park special, without giving away too much spoilers, it was like 30, 40 years in the future or something like that, and they still had the V around, and they still had lockdowns, all that type. Pretty much like this thing had no end to it, But ultimately, it's gonna lead towards Revelations the 13th chapter, 16 to 18 verse. All right. RFID microchip. That's going to be the next thing that if you mention, your channel will get terminated. So I'm trying to be real careful with my words because most of my channels are pretty much on the brink of deletion. And I understand that all channels will be deleted eventually, pursuant to Amos 8 and 11. But it's just annoying, really, like just, building it back up, and, it gets really tedious. So it's for the sake of not doing that, just trying to be careful with my words. Ecclesiastes 10 and 5 says, there is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and an error which proceeded from the ruler. So this is King Solomon talking about a dream he had. Folly is set in great dignity, a dream he saw of the future, a dream he saw of America. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low places. So folly, what's folly? Foolishness. It's set in great dignity, right? Because that's what is esteemed in the society. Look at most of these celebrities and people that get famous, they get famous for doing really just folly, foolishness, right? You have that dude 599 crib. Hey, me and my woman, she always jokes. She always says "muñaño" when this guy just says "muñaño." He just goes around making millions of dollars. It's really foolishness, you know what I'm saying? So you have a lot of these people that get high up in society and are esteemed in society for really just doing foolish things. Wisdom, really, like so, like these videos, they don't get a shit ton of views and attraction and all that. One, because the Lord said this would be a small sanctuary, and two, it's not folly. You know, look at your Cardi B's. Look at the people that's influencing your life. The baby that's influencing the life of Jakes. They do a whole bunch of bullshit and silliness. All the gangster rap, just stupidness. That's what's setting great dignity. But knowledge, wisdom, understanding is not really esteemed. That's sort of like something that's few and far between that you see. It says, and the rich sit in low places. Now, what does the scripture mean? The rich sit in low places. The rich are the Israelites, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And what does it mean? They sit in low places. They're in the projects. They're in the ghettos. They're in the slums, struggling when they're supposed to be ruling the planet Earth, killing one another. You know what I'm saying? It says, I have seen servants upon horses. Now, mind you, King Solomon in the 5th verse said this is an error. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. Now let's break that down. I've seen servants upon horses. Now who are the servants? So-called white men. The scriptures in the book of Genesis, 25th chapter, says the elder shall serve the younger. Esau shall serve his brother Jacob. So they're supposed to be servants unto us, like during the time of King David. And he says, I've seen them upon horses. Now the horses represents power. Now if you go to the national the history of natural, the Museum of History, of Natural History, something to that effect. I forgot what it's called. It's down there in Columbus by Central Park. I'm sorry. The History of Natural Museum, something like that. Anyway, you have Theodore Roosevelt, former president. He's on a horse. On to the right of him, he has like a Negro slave, and on to the left of him, he has a Native American slave, which this represents the southern and the northern kingdom. The Judites, the Negroes, the Judites consist of what the Negroes here in America, all right. But Judah, as a whole, got lumped up with the West Indians and the Levites. And then to the left of him, all right, mind you, these guys are walking while he's on a horse. And to the left of him, you have the Native Americans, which will represent the northern kingdom, which is, you have your Puerto Ricans, your Hispanics, your different northern tribes. Meaning we're walking upon. Why they didn't have a Chinese dude on his right or left, huh? Why didn't they have a Japanese or an Hawaiian person? Why didn't they have a straight up African? Because these devils know who we are and they know who they are. So that was very symbolic, because they had the servant upon a horse, and the princes were walking as servants upon the earth. They had them literally walking. Why didn't they have the Native American and the Negro have a horse as well with this dude? Nah, they were walking. You know? This devil knows the scriptures. So pretty much we're meant to rule, but we're in a low state while this devil's in the highest states. They're in all the richest neighborhoods all across the world. And at the same time, they're destroying the planet. Why? Because servants are not meant to rule. I'm going to read it. Proverbs 19:10. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. All right. So delight is like luxury. All right. Luxury, something exquisite, is not seemly for a fool, all right? Much less for a servant to have rule over princes. So it's not seemly to have this man ruling over us. You see, the best example I could give is what King Solomon said. He saw an error, right? So imagine you worked at this huge company, right? You worked at this huge company that has a lot of influence in the world, right? And you're familiar who the CEO is, right? You're familiar with the CEO, the board, everybody. All the counselors, everybody that's running this building, right? And you're in the building every day, and then on your way out, you see the janitor, right? You see the janitor, he's mopping the floor. He's doing his duty as a janitor. He's making sure the place is clean, right? What if the next day you come back to that building and the janitor is in the CEO office, and the people that were running the corporation, the CEO, were in a janitorial position? You say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This guy's a fucking janitor. He's not meant to run a Fortune 500 company. What the hell is going on? That's the best equivalent I could give. You know what I'm saying? Because this man is not meant to be in that CEO or rulership type position. He's meant to be a servant. That's how come the world is fucked up. That's how come the decrees and the laws that this man passes, the world is in pain. Animals are in pain. If you go into zoos or museums, you got animals in zoos banging their heads against the walls, killing themselves, man. And that's not hyperbole. These things are actually happening, man. Animals commit suicide. Animals in the oceans, whales beaching themselves. You know what I'm saying? This is what's going on in the planet Earth. Why? Because the so-called white man is destroying the planet Earth, man. Because he's not meant to be in this position. He's not meant to have this authority. Because if you give this man this authority, as it says in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, no flesh shall be saved. That's why there's an elect. Because if this man was to continue forever, no flesh shall be saved. Because he's a cancer, he's a plague, he's destroying the world. He's putting hell on people. You see? People are going to be mourning. You know, is there anybody really rejoicing right here in America? Hell no. I mean, the only ones that are rejoicing are the ones that is juiced in, that are reaping all the benefits. They're rejoicing for a period right now because things seem to be going in their way, but eventually the Lord is going to come back and destroy this devil, man. Proverbs 30:21, it says, for 3 things the earth is disquieted, right? Like not at ease, right? When you go look at that, that's the word ragaz, and it means to tremble, quake, rage, or quiver, be agitated. See? It says, for 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. Verse 22, for a servant when he reigneth. The earth cannot bear that. The earth cannot bear a servant when he reigneth. And is not this servant reigning? It says, for a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat. So-called white man's a fool. You know why I can say the so-called white man's a fool? Let me get the precept. I'm going to prove to you that the so-called white man's a fool. I got you right now. This is the book of Psalms 14:1. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. The fool has set in his heart, which your heart represents your mind because it's the Hebrew word there, lab. There is no God. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Now, who always says there's no God? Who's the number one group of atheists in the world? So-called Edomites, so-called white people. When you watch their movies and they pray, how do they pray? Look, I don't know if you're there, but I know we haven't spoke, but with no faith, no real conviction in the Most High, they don't believe in the Most High. That's why they do the things they do. It says they are corrupt. They have no abominable. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. See, that's the fool. They do abominable works. Who's the man? Who's the one that's having men compete with women just because they slap some titties and put a wig on? That's foolish. How the hardworking people, these women that have trained their entire lives, supposed to be happy when a dude comes, blow their ass out in the competition, and just be happy about it? They're gonna mourn and complain. And the list goes on, man. The list goes on the things that the planet Earth are complaining about, man. The fact that you can't even speak freely on a platform like YouTube, right? They call themselves a platform, but they edit and delete your work like publishers. That's no different than you putting your book in the library and the library's editing your work. Library shouldn't have that permission. It's not a publisher. So there's constant warnings going on, and I have news. It's only gonna get worse. Don't be surprised if the Most High takes this dude, Kamala gets in, and that's when the real hell begins. With that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKodash, the blessings of the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone with true well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. I came to the document that do this thing at most truth and sincerity, and Shalom.